The silence that followed the blackout was more absolute than the darkness itself. At the kitchen table, Sarah and Mike weren't screaming yet. They were suffocating on their own terror. I stood in the workshop doorway, completely still, listening. My hyper-hearing, refined over months of practice, was my sight now. I heard the frantic, wet breath of Mike, the rustle of Elena's silk blouse as she clutched at the expensive transfer documents. I felt the slight vibration of their hearts through the kitchen floorboards, a fast, erratic rhythm I was tracking. In that first second, I didn't move. I simply owned the silence. I knew exactly where they were standing. Because for me, the darkness wasn't the end. It was the arena I had calibrated for their defeat. Their greed had blinded them to the raw truth of the structure they were inside. I didn't need to attack them. I needed to destroy their confidence. I triggered the intercom system I had embedded in the trophy cup on the shelf. The hidden microphone image, 18. PNG began to broadcast their previous conversations, the low, calculated discussions of my incompetence and their impending celebration. It filled the dark room, amplified and distorted. Sarah's voice, saying, "It's all over," echoed from the corners. Mike's chuckle, "He's finished." Every word was a razor. I spoke for the first time, not with my mouth, but through the dark. "You thought this darkness was your opportunity." The intercom system boomed. "You were wrong. It's my arena, and I know every board that will creak under your fumbling feet." I felt the vibration of Elena's knees buckle through the floor. She snapped, "He's here! He's here!" She screamed, lunging at the empty space she thought I was occupying. She fell into the complex maze of chairs I had prearranged in the dark. I walked into the kitchen, moving not like a victim, but like the conductor of a calibrated symphony. My cane touched the specific floorboards I needed to know the distance, generating precise white blueprint lines that only I could see in my mind. I reached the table. The lawyer was fumbling at the documents, his breath like a broken engine. "The deal is still on," I whispered into the dark, my voice a cold wire. "But it's my deal now." I slid a new set of papers I had kept hidden in the workshop across the dark marble. By touch, I knew where the empty signature lines were. "Elena, Mike. Sign this transfer of all assets back to the trust I established." They were trapped. They knew I had the intercom recordings of their embezzlement, and I was broadcasting their current panic to the microphones. I was ready to destroy them legally if they didn't comply. Mike, trembling, began to trace the line with his finger, terrified of my unseen presence. Elena's signature was a desperate scratch in the void. I heard the distant whine of sirens, amplified by the intercom and the silent house. It was the crescendo I was waiting for. Mike heard it too. He lunged at me in a desperate, sightless fury. I didn't need to move. I stepped aside, a calculated move I had rehearsed in my head 1,000 times, knowing exactly how the wind shifted as his panicked body passed. He lunged into pure, empty air. He fell. I felt his body hit the floor, and I could hear the exact pattern of his fumbling feet as they slipped. I reached the main breaker and restored the power. The kitchen was flooded with light, but I didn't see the skyline or the fumbling, panicked figure of Mike. For me, the cage wasn't light. It was the structural control I had created through data and sound. When the police burst through the doors, I wasn't the victim. I was the architect. I stood on the balcony, listening to the city hum below. I couldn't see the skyline anymore, but I knew exactly how it was built. I realized that sight was a limitation. It distracted you with beauty and light, keeping you from the raw truth of the structure. I am still an architect. I don't need eyes to see the corruption, the weakness, or the ambition in the heart of this city. And now I have a new project. I am going to rebuild everything, not with glass and steel, but with the cold, hard, invisible truth. This was just the foundation. I was no longer the quiet man they thought they could break. I was the undisputed apex predator of this concrete jungle, and I will never forget the ancient, silent roots that gave me my teeth.